Okay, so welcome back to the podcast today. I'm excited. I've got a new guest with me today. Her name is Cheryl Keates. Cheryl is a master certified coach and has dedicated the past 20 years to supporting her clients with powerful transformations to amplify their health, wealth, and happiness by upgrading their beliefs and behaviors to achieve remarkable results in their lives and businesses. She understands the deep desire for a more fulfilling life. Don't we all want a more fulfilling life? And helps you build the mental fitness and discipline to design life on your terms by applying the principles of emotional and positive intelligence. So, I'm also got to say that Cheryl has been a mentor coach of mine. And so she's been part of my life for probably the past 4 or 5 years. So I've known her for a while. So I'm really thrilled to have her on the podcast today. So welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm thrilled to be here too because we've been on an amazing journey together, and I just love seeing all the growth and expansion that you've had in your life over the course of however many years it's been, and the impact that you're having with your clients. It's incredible. So thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey and for being able to share this powerful work with others.
Yeah, and I'm excited about this because this is like you keep adding to your work. I mean, you're always learning, you're always doing new things. So this
Right.
is something I want to talk about today because we hear it all the time. We hear about positive intelligence, emotional intelligence. So can you tell us a little bit about what that is and how you've come across it and used it?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've all heard of IQ. I think most of us have. And IQ is your intelligence quotient. So generally our IQ is formed by age 17, and it is what it is. So, it doesn't really change. I mean, some might argue that, but for the most part, our IQ is sort of set by age 17. And where in the 90s, they started looking at doing research on leaders, looking at leaders. Why are some leaders with average IQs so successful? And that's when they started diving into the emotional intelligence component and looking at those soft skills. Around your self-perception and your self-expression, your interpersonal skills and decision-making skills and stress management skills. So that's when EQ was introduced to the world, and it's really about all how we handle our emotions and the emotions of others in and out of the workplace. And then, as science is, we're always continuing to explore and grow and expand. And what came out of that was the research behind positive and negative thoughts. So this is really more neuroscience based, where they really took a look at what is it, that creates our negative thoughts and what is it that creates our positive thoughts. And, through imaging on MRIs and things, they could see that there's a region of our brain is what we call the survival region of our brain. And then there's a region of our brain that is the thriving region of our brain. And so our negative thoughts reside in the survival region in the left side of our brain. And as we start to, as children, we're like sponges, we're just absorbing everything around us. And we actually develop these thought patterns, and we develop these what we call saboteurs as a way of surviving in our environments. And they serve us until we get into adulthood, and then they start to be counterproductive. And so we've really done a lot of research on looking at how to intercept those negative thoughts and shift more into the positive side of our brain, the positive region of our brain, and um, and really kind of tune into what we call our sage powers, our empathy, our creativity, our innovation, and our ability to handle things in a more positive way or a productive way. So IQ is really about your smarts. EQ is really about managing your emotions and the emotions of others. And PQ is really all about shifting from negative to positive.
Okay. I love the idea of PQ. I love because I think, and something we talk about on this podcast a lot, and something that comes up in midlife, and that I'm very passionate about is stress.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of stress in our lives. We have a lot of, therefore, negative feelings, negative emotions around that. And it negatively impacts us physically, which is a lot of what, we talk about in menopause and midlife, where we have symptoms and we are negatively impacted by the thoughts we're thinking, by the stresses that are in our lives. So this is very interesting to me because I think this is a tool that women can use to get out of that negative mindset. And just by getting out of a negative mindset, can actually impact themselves physically and feel better as they go through this transition. So this is really, really interesting to me.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that there are saboteurs or accomplices that I guess come from this negative part of our brain, from this older
Yeah.
part of our brain, I guess. So, what are these accomplices that we need to be aware of so that we can, I guess, move beyond them?
Yeah, so yeah, there's a bunch of them. And you're right in the sense that like our mind can be our best friend and our worst enemy, right? So
Hmm.
it's really about learning how to build that mental fitness to make sure that your mind is on the right side of, things. But every day our minds are sabotaging our performance, our well-being, our relationships. And I would even take that further into our self-image, our, thoughts about ourself, right? And those negative emotions, including stress, are the result of our self-sabotage. So anybody who's ever worked with me or heard anything that I've talked about online will hear I'm always saying you create the stress. We produce the stress with our thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? So we have the power to change that by shifting our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And so, so we want to strengthen the part of our brain that serves us, and we want to quiet the part of our brain that sabotages us. Now, we all have a judge. Every single one of us has a judge, that inner critic, there's lots of different words for it, inner critic, gremlin, whatever. We all have different words to it, put to it, but we all have a judge. And that judge is either judging ourselves or others in any given moment of the day. Um, but what we've gone deeper with the positive intelligence research is not only do we all have a judge, but we have these accomplices. And there are 9 accomplices. And we don't all have the same accomplices.
Mm.
So that's the interesting part, right? We know we have this little nagging voice, this negative voice. It's like the devil and the angel kind of thing on your shoulders, right? But
Yeah.
we don't really understand these accomplices. So we have an assessment that you can do, and I'll give you the link for it, so your followers can do the assessment to identify your top accomplices. Okay.
Okay.
And that's really cool because then it gives you deeper insight into what else might be potentially blocking you. So we're really looking to get to the root cause, right? Of who are these accomplices and how are they getting in our way? So, for instance, my top 3 when I did this assessment, hyperachiever was number 1, stickler was number 2, and victim was number 3. Those are my top 3. And really, just when we start to understand hyperachievers, now there's nothing wrong with achieving, and I am, a high
Mhm.
achiever, and I work with high achievers. But what happens is we start to get, it starts to become counterproductive when we're always trying to, we got to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we're doing it to feel accepted. We're doing it to prove our worth and, validate who we are. And we're doing it to feel good enough, right? And so you'll see this a lot, where people get the degree and then they have to get the next degree and then they have to get the next degree and it's
Mhm.
never enough. And they don't even know how to take the time to celebrate the accomplishment that they've had, because the minute they accomplish something, they're all stressed out worrying about the next thing. So really understanding that and learning how to put that in check can be so powerful because again, we don't want to not have achievements and goals and things, but we want to do it from a place of wanting to grow and expand versus proving our worth and our value and sort of having that feeling accepted part, right? So the hyperachiever is one. And again, I'm going through mine right now. The stickler. The stickler's been a big one for me in terms of just doing things like this, right? Getting on camera, being, putting, getting on stage, getting on video, things like that, right? And it's really all about fear of failure and needing to get it right. So these are all the subconscious programs that we've developed through our childhood that then, like I said, sort of backfire and are counterproductive to us when we're older. So there's some beautiful ones. There's the victim, and that's where, you take things personally and, it's like, you fear rejection, all of those things. There's the avoider, which is a big one for a lot of people. I think in my last cohort, I had 10 people in my last cohort, 8 of them were avoiders. And we know what that leads to. It leads to procrastination, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we on the right track? Is this kind of where, do you want me to go?
Yeah, no, this is great.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, we need to understand these. And it's so interesting what happens when you identify them. Um, you can then put a label on it. Oh, there's my avoider. There's my
Hmm.
there's my stickler, and it's just so cool when we can put a name to it. Someone in one of my groups, was a hyper vigilant. So, just, hyper vigilant about everything. And you could just see how, being at hyper vigilant, puts you in a place of constantly, arguing or challenging or, just not trusting, things like that, right? So there's the hyper rational, which, if you're highly analytical, that comes into play. And oh my gosh, I'm wondering, which ones am I forgetting now? I'm forgetting a few.
Well, this
So,
is really good
but
though because uh, I think we're all interested in finding out what we are, right? So I'm
yeah,
so glad that in the show notes I'll put this this quiz that you've got so that we can figure out what our saboteurs are because I think we're all interested in knowing what is it, you know? It's just
absolutely,
one of those things that
absolutely.
we want to know. But
Yeah,
it's so interesting because when you started talking about this and started talking about putting a name to things, I have a negative voice in my head, as we all do. As you mentioned, we all have this negative voice who has all these characteristics. You know, maybe they're causing us to avoid things and causing us to be overachieving. So I have this voice, and I gave her a name, and her name is Martha. Which
yeah.
I find is very funny since they came out with that Netflix special on Martha Stewart.
Oh
And she's
yeah,
very like, and I could just imagine that it's Martha Stewart that's whipping me into like, come on, let's go. And this isn't good enough. And, those kind of things. Anyways, I
yeah,
find it fascinating. And I often tell my clients to give this voice a name because it is part of who we are. And these pieces, all these saboteurs are part of who we are. So I tell them to give them a name just so that they're not you. There's Martha or there's somebody else, right? So I just found that really interesting. So
yeah,
we have these 9 saboteurs, but then what do we do with them? Like, how can we stop them?
yeah. Well, this is it, right? And there can be underlying strengths with our saboteurs. Okay, there are some underlying strengths. It's when it just gets too far off, you know, that it starts to be counterproductive. So they do, serve us. And I've heard people say, I don't want to get rid of my saboteurs. They've helped me get to this place. And again, like I think Martha Stewart's a great example of that, where yeah, sure, she may be a stickler, but she, it's supported her in, building her brand
Mhm.
and accomplishing what she's accomplished in life, right? So it just again can get to that place where it becomes like, everybody thinks you're judging them and so on and so forth, right? And not really understanding. So yeah, these voices do generate stress and negativity, and it really depends on how learning how to name, like understand, like awareness, we know, is the key to everything, right? We can't change anything until we know, we don't know what we don't know. So creating that awareness and understanding, okay, these are my saboteurs. These are the things that have been getting in my way, my stickler, and sometimes I'll even say, oh my God, I just ate a saboteur sandwich. My hyperachiever, activated my stickler. My stickler, then took me into victim mode and like, oh my God, it's so much work. I need help, all the things, right? So one can activate the other, and also other people's can activate ours as well. We
Mm.
can feed off of each other too. I have a lot of clients, husbands and wives, that one's a controller and one's a pleaser. That's another one I forgot to mention. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Isn't that an interesting dynamic, right? And
Mhm. Yeah.
I've seen it in a few couples now. So what we want to do is we want to learn how to name it, identify it, okay? Just be aware of it. And then we start teaching you through various tools and techniques that we have in the app, to intercept, right? To intercept the negative thought the minute we start to notice it or become aware of it, and give ourselves a command, a self command, to shift our thought. And so it's similar to, and we hear this all the time, like with kids, when you're teaching your children, you wouldn't leave your hand on a hot stove for more than a second, right? And anybody who's done it, had that experience, knows the minute you put your hand on the hot stove, it's going off immediately. And that's what we want to train you how to do with your mind, right?
Mm.
We want to train you to rewire. And the minute you start to go into a negative thought pattern, intercept it immediately. You wouldn't leave your hand on a hot stove for more than a second. Why stay in a negative emotion for more than a second? Right?
Mm.
How
Mm.
does it serve us? So we teach you through tools and techniques how to do that rewiring, how to intercept it, how to give yourself a command, and how to tap into your sage powers.
Mm. Okay. So then there's sage powers. Like, are those like the opposite of the saboteurs, or are they?
Yeah. So there's 5 sage powers that we've identified: empathize, explore, navigate, innovate, and activate.
Mm.
So really, like, think about it this way: left brain, right brain. So your negative thoughts reside in the left side of your brain, in your survival region, and your positive thoughts reside in the right side of your brain, which is your sage region, or your thriving region. And our right side of our brain is more of our creative side of our brain, right? So we're really getting more into solution mode, right? Instead of
Mhm.
problem. So problem, solution, right? Where do you want to stay? Do you want to stay in problem, or do you want to flip over to solution? And really learn how to build those muscles to, to have more empathy, to get more curious, to get more creative, to, navigate through any situation that's thrown your way in life, personally, with health. I mean, I've just had a 3 weeks. My dog had surgery on the same day one of my best friends died. I had a tax audit. I mean, there was a lot going on,
Oh boy.
right?
Yeah.
And I just was so grateful for this work, because I navigated through it in a completely different way than I ever would have in the past. I always say double down on the work when you're going through challenging times. And I just doubled down on the work, to make sure that I was taking care of myself and staying in the right state of mind and the right state of action.
Mm. That's so
So,
good.
so what we're
Yeah.
doing by it's kind of like a mental gym. You're doing the daily reps, 15 minutes a day, where you're going in and you're training your mind to shift from negative to positive. because we have these beautiful neural pathways, right? And we are all wired to go to the negative. So over the course of the years, we've developed this big pathway, right? So
Hmm.
anytime something happens, automatically goes to the negative, right? So what we're
Wow.
doing with these daily exercises is we're creating new pathways to create, like, shift faster, easier, instead of defaulting to what we call the negativity bias, which most of us have like 60 to 90,000 negative thoughts a day.
Yeah, it's crazy. That
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
But like you said, it is the survival side. So it's the oldest side of, it is there for us to survive. But I think we've gotten beyond the need for survival. And now we can tap into this thriving mode that we can create a life that we want to actually. So I love
Absolutely.
this idea.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Well, that's it.
So
Survive or thrive.
yeah, no, exactly. You have a choice. And that's what it is too, right? You have a choice. You can stay in survival mode. You can stay there, but you can actually use your mind to get you into thriving mode. And you mentioned 15 minutes a day. So is this, and you mentioned an app. So I'm assuming this goes together.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So what does that look like 15 minutes a day? Like what are the exercises or the things behind it?
hmm Yeah, so what's really cool about the app is it is like going to a mental gym every day. We have these little 2-minute daily focus exercises that come out throughout the day. So we don't want you to just go in, do 15 minutes in the morning and then forget about
Mm.
it, right? Because what are we doing? We're training our mind to, build these new pathways and build these new muscles, right? So repetition is the key. So the app gives you these 2-minute little modules throughout the day, like 9 a.m., 12, 3 p.m., 6 p.m. So you're training yourself to go in there and kind of do the reps, right? And then there's little exercises that you can do either in 2-minute, 5-minute, or 12-minute chunks. So I know a lot of people will set this, like, it's kind of like recharging your battery in the morning. A lot of people will
Mhm.
do a 5-minute or a 12-minute in the morning just to charge their battery up and just to get them into the right, state of mind as they go into the day. And then throughout the day, you're learning how to apply these little exercises. And eventually, you can even start doing some of the more tactile ones without the app. Yesterday I was at my naturopath's and I have a needle phobia, but I've been applying these techniques to getting my B12 shots. And she was like, I can't believe it. Like, before I'd have to lay down. It was a big production. My whole body would be shaking. Now I'm like, yeah, let's just go. And I do the little tactile reps in the office, and I don't even think about it anymore. So what is it
Wow.
doing? Because think about it. My needle phobia is psychological, right? It's not it doesn't hurt. It's just a fear. And so by intercepting the negative thoughts around the fear of the needle and doing these little exercises, I'm not having that physiological reaction anymore. And I'm
Mm.
just like, okay, let's do it. Right?
Wow.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Really fascinating. So we're going in throughout the day doing these little 2-minute exercises, training ourselves to build those new muscles, those new pathways. Um, and uh, and then of course there's weekly lessons and things as well to help you really understand the science behind it and why it's important and so on. And I think, one of the fun exercises that we do is similar to what you said, you calling that, giving that judge a name, creating this character, becoming really familiar with this person, and then, creating our sage character. Who do we want to
Mm.
hang out with? Who do we, you just, the more aware and the more familiar you get, the more you can decide what side of the fence you want to stay on, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. I love the idea of setting up the other character, actually, the sage character, because that's probably even more important that you
Yeah,
have some, you know where you're going.
yeah,
So I love that idea.
Yeah,
That's
it's really
great.
cool. It's really cool because really all it is a choice. Do I want to stay in this place of negativity? Um, and I think people need to understand that they can how powerful the mind is and how powerful our thoughts are, and that we do have the power to shift them. People may
Yeah.
not feel that they do, but when they learn these tools and how this works, they see, yes, I do have the power. Yes, I
Mm.
can change this. And that just opens up possibilities for anything and everything, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I very much believe it. That's and as part of my learning with you and all the a lot of the learning I've done has been around the thoughts and that we really do have a choice in what we think. But
Mhm.
I just think this is so applicable to a lot of women in this age group, a lot who I know are going through anxiety, like a surge of anxiety right now. Like you mentioned, the phobia of needles. Like I've been dealing with this phobia of going to the dentist lately, which is a new thing for me, which I've never had a problem with. So, things like that can really help, or even just any feeling of dread or things that these feelings that do show up for us tend to be amplified a little bit at this time of life when our hormones are changing. So I just can see that there's so much benefit to being able to do this. There's so much power in it. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I can identify with all of that.
Hmm.
I'm going to be 62 in January, and
Yes.
it's funny. You mentioned the dentist. I was at the dentist yesterday, and I was going in for this little thing, and he said, "Oh, I think that we need to do a filling." I'm like, "What? That wasn't like I wasn't mentally prepared for that, you know." And then I start doing my PQ reps, we call them, and I'm like, "Okay, okay." I'm like, "Well, and I'm having cataract surgery in a couple of weeks, and
Wow.
like I said, my dog's had surgery, my best friend died, I'm having cataract surgery, it's the holidays, it's business, the busiest time of the year for business. There's all these things going on. And I just know I wouldn't have been able to get through any of it without this work. Even like one of the things that we talk about in terms of tuning into your sage powers is looking for the gift in the adversity, right? What's the
Mm.
gift in this? And sometimes it's not so easy to find. But my dog ate my earplugs and ended up in the ER.
Oh
And
no.
of course I wasn't happy. It was 5 in the morning, and I was like, "Oh, here's another $1,000 vet bill, and here we go," right? But we get there and we do we do an X-ray to make, to see if they're in there, and yeah, there's the earplugs. But then the vet's like, "Oh, but then she saw something else." And oh, I think we need to look at that, which is the thing that led to surgery. And I was like, what's the gift? The gift in eating the earplugs is that we wouldn't have found this other thing, right? We wouldn't have known
Mm.
that there was a bigger problem that could have been like
Wow.
life threatening. So if we are able to train our minds to always be looking at the gift, what's the gift? What is the gift in all of these things, right? We can find that there's always a lesson or an opportunity for growth or something in it. And when it comes to age, I really truly believe it's interesting. Like at the funeral, most of us are in our 60s. And the ex-husbands were there, the girlfriends were there, and I have to say we looked really good. And even the men were like, "Wow, you ladies, you're looking really good," and I was like, "Yeah, I feel really good. I do look good. I feel good." Like, and that's because it is a state of mind, right? And
Mm.
how we choose to focus on aging, and how we choose to look at it, and what we have control over and what we don't have control over, and where's the gift in all of that too. And so, I mean, I just walked away from that experience really feeling proud of myself and really feeling, just so happy and grateful for the growth and the expansion and everything that I've experienced in my life. There was one of our friends there who has been living in anger for over 30 years, and hasn't been able to let it go. And she looked 20 years older than the rest of us. And,
Yeah.
I talk about this a lot about forgiveness. And, it's like holding a hot coal in your hand. You're not hurting, no, the other person, whoever you're, is has moved on. But if you're not forgiving, it's really harming you. So we really need to think about how these negative thoughts are manifesting in our bodies, how these
Mhm.
negative thoughts are impacting our health, our ability to get a peaceful night's sleep, or even the challenges that we face as we do go through menopause and other things. It's
Mhm.
really the mind is such a powerful tool to access when you're going through that, in terms of how you're going to navigate, right? And
Yeah.
that's the sage powers, right? How am I choosing to navigate through this? And how am I choosing to look at this, and what do I have control over, and what can I do to get through this
Yeah.
in the most easiest, effortless, joyous way, right?
Yeah, and all of that is so good. And it is really up to us. And it's really about tapping into that power that we all have. We all have this part of our mind that we can use, that we just need to practice it. So, I mean, I love everything you've shared, and this has all been amazing. And and I could stay on here for hours, I think, because I love this material as well. But I do need to come to the end of our time. But before we do, there's always a question I ask, and you kind of hinted at it a little bit, but I always ask, what's the best part of getting older for you? And I know you just mentioned about, how you feel, but what has been the best part for you?
Yeah, I think um, the best part for me has just been really the confidence.
Mm.
Like, as I've gotten older, I've learned to love myself more. I've learned to take care of myself better. Self-care is my number one value. So I'm taking better care of myself. I'm loving myself more. I'm really proud of the woman that I've become, and how I continue to grow and expand and evolve, and really tune into the wisdom. And I would say that's the sage, right? Tuning into
Mhm.
I talk a lot about getting out of ego and into spirit, right? And just, tuning into your soul. So it's really almost like returning to your wholeness. This is who I was born to be. And I just feel as I get older, I become more and more her every day. That beautiful, woman, that I was born to be, and the impact that I was born to have in the world. So I just feel so grateful for the wisdom and the growth, and all that I've learned, and how it's led me to where I am. And I actually just feel like I'm getting started in
Yeah.
with my mission. So I don't see myself retiring, right? I really believe in redesigning, and, figuring out what that looks like at any point in your life, because we all go through different developmental stages. So we're always redesigning, and we're always growing and expanding and evolving, and that's just so fulfilling. It's so fulfilling. We do our best to take care of ourselves, and love ourselves for exactly who we are and where we are. So I think that's the best part of it for me. Like, what, that going back to that funeral, like, and people, I realized, still saw me as who I was in my 20s or 30s, and they don't know the 60-year-old me. And I would never want to go back there. very happy where I am. And I just continue to ask myself, how can I make it better? What else could I do?
Mhm.
And it's all about self-love, self-care, self-respect, um, and growing, expanding, evolving, and just, living life in the most fulfilling, meaningful way. So I don't know if, did I answer the
That's it.
question?
Yeah, you did. I mean, you did over and over again. It was good. I mean, this is fabulous because that's it. I think what I take away from you is because you're 10 years ahead of me. So I love that you just keep learning and you just keep adding to your toolbox and you just keep, you're still out there building your business and that is and you don't dream of retiring, and I definitely can see that, and I'm hoping in 10 years that's I'm still thinking like you are, and just evolving, continuing to evolve as long as I'm here, that I will just keep getting better and better and closer to that person that I was put here to be. So I love that, and I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate that you were here today to talk about this. It's such a needed topic. And we do hear about it in the, business world maybe, but I think it's so applicable to our personal lives and to what we're going through right now as we transition through menopause. I think we need to learn that we have this power within us that is exists, and we just need to learn how to use it.
Absolutely.
So that's so powerful. So
Yeah.
if the women in my audience, they want to get in touch with you or they want to learn more about you, how can they best do that?
Yeah, so I will give you the link to do the saboteur assessment.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah,
I'll put
so
that in the show notes.
I
Yes.
identify what your top accomplices are. I am going to be doing another. Uh, I do these 8-week workshops with this program to build your mental fitness, and I'll be doing another one in January, so I can give you the link for that as well. Or you could go to my website and just book a call and learn more about it that way. So I would say those are the best ways to reach me. And I'll give you my Instagram link as well, so you can just follow me there. I'm gonna be
Perfect.
the stickler is going to be going on vacation, and I'm going to be spending more time putting out good content on Instagram. So
Good.
yeah,
Good.
I think,
Yeah.
I think for your audience, like what I would, I would hope that everybody takes away today is just understanding that, self-care is the most important thing. Yes, we have these bodies. Our bodies are our vehicles, right? And as we get older, I think, we just really are more tuned into, our spirit and what feeds us and, what matters more to us in life. And understanding that, we can, take, instead of, thinking negatively about how we're, our bodies are, things that aren't in our control, what can we do? How can we make the best of it? How can we continue to take care of ourselves, through mind, body, spirit, all the different tools and things out there that are available to us.
Mhm.
And I think that's again just getting curious and saying, what can I do to be as healthy and to feel as fit and strong and flexible and energetic as possible, right? And this because
Mhm.
you're always exploring these things and trying to bring amazing information to your clients and to your audience. So we have the power to you know to keep it under control to a certain extent, and that all starts with how we choose to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate that. And I think the audience will get a lot of value out of this conversation. I think there's a lot to be learned here, and it's always evolving. It's a science that's always evolving as well. So we just
Exactly.
need to keep up with it. And there's so much to be applied here. So I just want to thank you for being here today, for taking the time to talk with me and to share with me and to share with the audience. I really, really love that. And we'll stay connected for
Yeah,
sure.
Debbie. Yeah, thank you. It's been fun. And let's, keep in touch and yeah, just continue to grow and share and expand together.